So today we're going to talk about 5 things that an NSA should never do, or at least try not to do. Hold on, I'm echoing. Okay, so yeah, we're going to talk about 5 things that an NSA should never do. We call this our no-nos, things that industry standard dictates that if you do these things, you're not going to be a favorite NSA. And we want everyone who attends our classes to be a favorite. It's in everybody's interest to be a favorite. Sometimes there's some competition in this industry, and people will say, well, why are you training new people? I've had people say that. I've had people email saying, why are you training new people? Because there's enough jobs for all of us. And all of our clients deserve the best notary possible. So back to what I was saying. I want to remind you of the mission, because this is going to be 5 things you should never do. It's going to sound negative, but remember where we're coming from. Our goal in providing these trainings is never to shame, embarrass, humiliate anybody. Our goal is to educate and provide you an insider's perspective. So you as notaries, you're not signing agents. You might not be escrow or title. Maybe some of you have some experience. But since you're not, we want to give you that perspective. We want you to know what we know, how we feel, what we see every day. So this perspective comes from handling thousands of signings, hundreds every day, to give you what we know, what we see. So that's really the point. That's why I wanted to kind of emphasize to you first, because it is going to sound like bad. But another quick note, and that's why I have Lisa able to unmute herself, is because we've all made these mistakes. Everyone's made these mistakes. So it's not like we're coming from a bad place. We're coming from a place of avoid these things because we know what's going to make you successful. So I wanted to start that off before I get right into it. Okay, so number 5, and they're not really in any particular order either, just to keep that in mind. They're all very important, but this is kind of in the order of our issues that we've been having lately. So number 5 is asking the wrong person or company for a higher fee. So industry standard dictates that fees should be negotiated before the NSA accepts the signing. Okay, so that's what the NNA says. That's kind of industry standard. Before you accept the signing, that's when you negotiate the fees. Now, sometimes there will be special circumstances that may result in a renegotiation after the signing was accepted. So that could mean location change. Maybe it became farther out, different distance. You have to go to multiple places. Could be that more paperwork was added. What if it was just a regular first refinance and they added a HELOC? Maybe more signers are being present. Normally past 4 signers, that can be a really big signing, even 4 signers. So those are all things that we might not know when we first are offering the signing or when you're getting the signing, but finding out after, and then that can result to in a fee negotiation. Now, the point of us saying this is that you only want to negotiate with the company that's hiring you, the contracting company. So if you're hired by a signing company like Coast to Coast, then that's the person that you go to. All other individuals may not be aware of the payment contracts between each party. So this is something that we've seen a lot recently. I had a signing last week. It was a reverse mortgage final loan, and those are big docs. We normally get paid more for them, and the notary gets paid more just in general because they're typically minimum 300 pages. Doesn't mean they're signing all 300. There's a lot of pages they don't sign, but they can be lengthy jobs. The notary went to the signing. I think the fee was $100. She came back from the signing and said that she talked to a loan officer who promised her $450 for the signing. That's kind of unheard of. That's unless it's month end and you're doing a signing at 11 at night that must sign that night, or you're going really far, which sometimes happen. That fee, we never get paid that fee ever. Lisa, you could tell me if I'm wrong on that, but we've never got paid that fee. So we were kind of surprised. So we mentioned that to our client, of course, because I can't just bill that, right? I can't just put, $500 on the invoice and hope to get paid. I have to check that by my client because that's not our contract with the escrow company. Now, typically escrow is the one that hires us. So now notary's saying loan officer said that. So we reached out to everyone and they said, no, we can't approve that fee. We never approved that fee. The most we can approve is whatever it was, maybe 200. I don't know what the exact fee that we could bill. So we went to the notary and she was really adamant about the loan officer giving her $450. That's why you never go to a loan officer if you're hired by a signing company, right? Or you never go to a loan officer if you're hired by an escrow company, because they're not the ones that negotiate the fees. They're not aware of the contracts. We have certain clients that we have contracts where we can't bill more than a certain amount. Loan officers might not know that. They just might not be aware of that. So they're going to give approval for something that we ultimately can't do. We just can't pay that because our client will not allow it. So that's why you go to the company that hires you for a fee increase. It happened last night. Same thing. Loan officer promised me $200. We were only making $125, and our client will not allow us to bill more. So now we can't lose $75. We have to make at least a little bit. That way we can keep our lights on, figuratively, right? So it just gets complicated, and it's just not the person you go to. So if you want to ask for a fee increase, you go to the company that hires you. Okay. And when it comes to payment issues and concerns, our big thing is thinking big picture, not little picture, right? You want to think big picture. Is this interaction going to build morale? Is this interaction going to result in a better partnership? If the answer is, I don't know, then maybe rethink what you're asking and how you're asking it. And something that we're going to talk about throughout this whole little section is communication. So communication, thinking about developing partnerships and the big picture. You might want a little bit more. Is it worth losing a partner over? Most likely no, right? We want to, especially when we're first starting out, we want to get as many clients as we possibly can. That's how we're going to make money. So that's number 5, asking the wrong person or company for a higher fee. Okay. Sorry about that. I had to make someone co-host. Lisa, you there?
Yeah.
Anything to add on that? Sorry about that.
No, you did a real good job.
Okay, cool. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, so number 4 is going MIA or ghosting. I like this little picture. That phrase ghosting, isn't it mostly used for like when you're dating someone and then they disappear on you and you can't get a hold of them? Well, we use that same phrase in our company for a notary who disappears and we can't get a hold of them anymore. So there's a lot of reasons why you might want to ghost. And I am the queen of ghosting. Like if I go to a party, you'll wonder, where'd Ginny go? She must have disappeared, because I hate saying goodbye. So there's certain things I get a lot of anxiety with, so I'll ghost. But when it comes to business, even if we're in a really cringy situation and we're like super stressed about it, you just cannot ghost. You cannot go MIA. So what are some of those cringy situations? Forgetting about a signing. Ugh, I've done that. Or making a mistake and you know this client is really mean. You want to just disappear, right? You want to delete the email and then forget about it. Or maybe you're worried you made a mistake. That's always the funniest, when a notary's like, I disappeared because I was scared I made a mistake. Just never ignore a client. Never ignore a client or a company that hired you, ever. Even if you're like, that was my first and last signing, I'm never going to do this again. Do not ghost. Do not go MIA. We like to say bad news is better than no news, right? So it's better that you tell us, break it to us, than disappear. And then we just can assume, right? We just can assume, okay, possibly this is what happened. Ultimately, it's just going to put a bad taste in our mouth. We would never keep a notary who ghosts us on our dashboard. We just can't, right? We can't afford it. I've made that mistake. I had a notary, she confirmed the signing, downloaded docs, disappeared, and I forgot to remove her, and she did the same thing for us like a week later. So I'm going to say that was on me. Again, I've done this. We've all done this in one way or another, maybe intentionally or not intentionally. I one time forgot about a signing, and I waited until the last possible minute to tell everyone the situation. And I look back and I regret that, right? Because it didn't build relationships. So no matter what happens, we never want to ghost. And the worst possible thing we can fix. Almost anything we can fix. Lisa, do you have anything to add on this one?
Yeah, this has been the kind of week that I'm so happy it's Friday. And the reason is the middle of this week, we found 3 files that they signed last week in the middle of the week. And 3 notaries didn't ship docs, which happens. It was just upsetting that it was with the same client, which is really bad. And 2 of the 3, the notaries ghosted us. I mean, I'm texting saying, we can fix everything. Just tell me what's going on, please. We're not upset. Just let us know. Crickets. No response at all. One of them even had an emergency contact of her mentor. The mentor couldn't get a hold of her. And then she claimed to have been in the hospital. A lot of hospital visits this past week. But they never spoke to us. Of the 3 incidences, one man, notary signing agent, actually said, oh my gosh, the docs are in the back seat of my car, and didn't ghost us. And we're like, we will use him and be partners with him forever because he was upfront, honest. We made it right with the client, but the 2 that just went MIA, never work with them again. So I'd rather you say, oh my gosh, look what happened, right? And we fix it, than nothing at all. So it's important to just be upfront and tell us what's going on. We're your partners. You're our partners. We can smooth things over. That's all I got.
Yeah, totally. And that kind of goes along with what we're going to continue to talk about, those same kind of examples, because it really lends to a bigger picture that we need to discuss. Okay, so number 3 is refusing to fix your mistakes. Every notary is going to make mistakes, right? Even the best notaries. Notaries have been doing it forever, going to make mistakes. It's really not about the mistake. It's how you fix it. Just like Lisa said, we can fix almost anything. We can figure out a way. We can troubleshoot almost anything. Now, if you get defensive, and that's why I liked this picture. Oh, I like this picture because it's like businessman has the gloves on, ready to fight. If you come in hot and defensive, that's just not going to work, right? We're not going to be able to help each other. You can't solve the ultimate goal and problem if that's the situation. So it's not about the mistake. It's how you fix it. Refusing to fix your mistake will result in your services not being used. Just this week, I had a notary. She had the borrowers. She left the right to cancel dates blank. So the right to cancel, if it's blank, that means it's your responsibility to fill out, right? We've talked about this a lot in our classes. So if you haven't attended our other classes, go on our YouTube and check it out. But that's one of the most important docs for you to make sure that's filled out right. So the notary refused to get this fixed and just pretty much said, you're out of luck. Okay, so what did we have to do? We had to hire another notary to fix their mistake. We can't trust a notary who can't fix their mistakes and doesn't take ownership and responsibility of it. It's going to cost that notary money because my client's not going to pay us more to have that notary's mistake fixed, right? So I have to now deduct from her pay to pay another notary. So she did a whole signing. She made a mistake. She could have gotten her whole fee because she refused to fix it. There are times, again, where maybe you can't, if there is truly an emergency, or if you are out of town, maybe you can't do it then, but are you willing to help? Are you willing to troubleshoot? Or are you just saying, oh, it's off I'm cleaning my hands of it. You're not going to be used, and we don't want anybody to be put in that situation. We don't, with joy, remove someone from our database. We're frustrated, right? Because we could have been a partner and now we're not a partner. And it's going to cost that notary way more than just the $20 that we're taking off her fee, because now coast to coast, she can't work with coast to coast anymore, right? Our clients will tell us if we say, hey, the notary is refusing to fix, they'll say, remove the notary. We can't work with that notary. And there are times when you might think, well, that's not the right way to fix it. Our client, unless they're asking us to do something like backdate signatures, our client dictates how they want it. So if you're uncomfortable providing notarizations, acknowledgements that you might have missed, right? If you forget a stamp and refuse to fix that, then you shouldn't be a signing agent. Because if our client says this is the only way that we can fix it due to a rate lock and the county, that's the only way they can fix it. So they're not going to ask you to do something illegal, but if you're uncomfortable with it outside of obviously illegal things, it might not be the industry for you. So something to think about. Lisa, anything to add on this? Lisa, you there?
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
No, that you did fine.
Okay. All right. So just something to think about. Even if you can't do the correction, right? Maybe you are out of town. You can't squeeze it in. Can you call the signers? Can you do the prep work? There's all sorts of troubleshooting ways. And basically, if an error comes to you, can say, hey, I can't meet the borrowers. Is there anything I can do? Can I call them? Can I schedule the fix? If you know another notary, can I send my, cousin who's a notary out? So there's all sorts of ways that we can fix things. It's really thinking outside of the box that's important. Okay, that was number 3. Number 2, this happens all the time, asking to be reassigned last minute. So real life and emergencies do happen from time to time, right? That's going to be unescapable. I've gotten into major car accidents on the way to signings. You might hear horrible news on the way to a signing, and you know you can't keep it together. When that happens, all that we ask is you provide as much time as you can to be reassigned. So as soon as you know, and that really, it can be hard. Sometimes when we're dealing with a traumatic situation, it's not that easy, right? You might have totally forgotten because the trauma was so big. But if it's a situation that you know what's happening, or it's going to happen, or it's coming up in your radar, we really need to know as soon as possible. But what we've noticed is that sometimes every once in a while, it'll be just like a one-off emergency happen, you have to go and you can't do the signing. But it really becomes a problem when you're frequently asked to be reassigned last minute, so within a few hours of the signing. And somebody out in our world is telling notaries to use family emergency as the excuse. Oh, family emergency, family emergency. So we see family emergencies happening in our line of work, 20 times a day, which I don't want to downplay true family emergencies, but because we know that someone's out there saying that, it's hard to believe, right? And you get that. It's like the boy who cried wolf. So you don't know when it really truly is. So you don't have to provide details necessarily of why you need to be reassigned, but give ample notice. And if it's really not a family emergency, keep in mind the following things. So if you need to be reassigned because you overbooked yourself, you really need to rethink the way you're scheduling your day, right? So if you're asking because, oh my gosh, I totally forgot this other signing, that can become a habit. And why do we know? Because we've all done it, right? You might think, oh, I'm like on a roll. I'm so fast. I can do this, this, and that. And you realize that you really can't, right? Because you're not accounting for traffic, special signers, certain types of documents. You also never want to be reassigned or asked to be removed because of a fee, page count, or signer count. If you've accepted a signing, you really want to make your yes mean yes and see it through. You can always remember, and in fact, the NNA tells you, if you take their signing agent test, it says, what do you do if you realize that the signing is taking place like outside of your normal area? And the answer to that question is complete the job and ask for a higher fee next time when you accept a signing in that area. So that's the NNA, and we all know the NNA, right? Very respected organization by many. That's what they say, and we agree with them. It's also bad practice to ask to be reassigned to accept another job. right? This will sometimes happen. Oh, I took another job, sorry, asked to be reassigned. Again, we can't work with the notary that's not willing to accept a signing and then stick with it, right? And what about if you just can't make the original time? Maybe your other signing is taking a little longer. The first thing you'd want to do is inform the signer and see if they can move their signing a little bit. Because likely, if you're going to be late to the job, it's going to take us maybe just as long or longer to find a replacement notary, right? Oh, I'm signing's in 15 minutes. I'm going to be 45 minutes late. Go find another notary. Well, we're going to be even later, right? Our new notary is going to be even later. So always try to troubleshoot and move the time with the signer if possible. But we talk about this all the time. Be realistic, right? Don't tell the signer you'll be there in 10 minutes and show up an hour late. Be realistic with your signing time. If they really can't wait, that might be their only option, right? If we can't get a notary out for an hour and you're going to be an hour away, that might be the only option. So just communicate. And that's something that all of these no-nos can be solved by communication. And when you communicate, be professional, be thorough, and be a team player. And that means understanding what it means for the person that hired you to be asked to be reassigned. It means that our client, our signer, our team is now under pressure, and it's going to require a lot of rushing and meeting deadlines. So asking to be reassigned, I wouldn't take it lightly. If you're taking it lightly, you really don't know what's involved in that. Even in highly populated areas, asking to be reassigned can be difficult last minute, especially in areas that are rural. And a lot of you I know are in rural areas. Asking to be reassigned might be impossible. We might need to reschedule for another day. So just something to keep in mind.
I'm going to step in real quickly.
Of course.
I want to make sure too, I had a call at the very beginning of this, so if I stepped on it, forgive me. One of the things is we realize that sometimes a signing agent will take a signing based on a zip code. And we also realize that some areas in the United States, the zip code could be really ginormous territory. So if you call up and say, listen, I thought it was here, it turns out it's really far away and I'm unable, we get that, right? Do it as soon as possible. We know that there really are emergencies. We realize there really are, valid reasons. So we're not going to be hard, not understanding. But we have we have a Slack communication. So a communication within our team. We have one devoted to just notary backed out, notary backed out, notary backed out. I mean, it's all day long. So that is the concern, is that we know that sometimes it really does happen, but keep in mind too, that SnapDoc's rating system, your rating goes down if you're continually being reassigned. I can't stop that. I've actually talked to the owner, Aaron King, and said, I don't think that's fair, and he won't change it. So you also want to keep that in mind as well. That's all I have to say. And yes, Priscilla, SnapDoc's locations are not always accurate. We know that. So we realize those true, actual situations.
Yeah. I'll give you an example of that. I have a profile, and I used to do notary work full time. Then I worked in the back office, and then my profile was kind of used as a stopping ground for me assigning notaries to files. Like my brother and my sister-in-law, I used to make their schedules. So I'd say, put everything in my name in this area and I'll give it to who I want it to go to. So my score is super low because of that. So if you have a low rating on SnapDocs, you might wonder, why are you asking to be reassigned? Are you overbooking yourself? Are you taking jobs and going, I really can't do it? Yeah, that's a good point. Very good. This happens all the time. Love to see it happen less. And you guys can be part of that. All right, number one, and this has just been, like Lisa mentioned, she gave an example. This has been our error of the week. And oh boy, it's driving me crazy. Not shipping docs on time. So let's regroup on what that means. When you get a set of docs signed, seller's docs, loan docs, deeds, they should be shipped the same day if possible. Now, FedEx cutoff, depending on your area, is what? Normally 3, 4, 5. Rural areas, it might even be sooner, like 12. But in like metropolitan areas, it could be sometimes as late as 7. You just have to get to know your local UPS and FedEx cutoff times, which you could find easily online. Or when you go into the store, you're going to see it. Take note of that. If the signing occurs after your FedEx cutoff time, then it can be shipped the next day. So that's the rule. Failing to drop docs immediately will result in critical delays in either funding or recording. If you miss cutoff, which happens, and I've told you many stories of the times that I've missed cutoff, left them in my trunk of my car, just totally forgot about them. You could, it's going to happen. That's just the way it is. The best notaries are going to do it sometimes. But if that happens, communication is key. So you let everybody know the moment you realize. You scan the docs in immediately and you drop them in FedEx same day, if at all possible. That's what you do. Again, no news is worse than bad news. I'd take bad news any day when it comes to dropping docs, but it's all about communication. If notaries forget to drop docs and then never communicate, which happens all the time. So what'll happen is I'll get an email, docs were never dropped, or we can't see them tracking. Can you find out what's going on? I'll call and text the notary. Nothing. Tell my client I haven't been able to get a hold of them. I'll keep trying. And then the next day they arrive at the office. I appreciate that the docs were dropped, right? That person probably was like, shoot, I left them in my car. Let me drop them. But if they never communicate, if they ghost me, they have to be removed from the database, right? Because no communication in this industry is not acceptable. It'd be better if you give us bad news. Also, don't fib. And that's something that a lot of times we'll never know, right? We can never prove it. But we did have another situation where a notary didn't drop docs. We couldn't get a hold of them. They said, docs are in FedEx, they'll go out today. Then the next morning, scans were uploaded, docs weren't shipped. So she overpromised and underdelivered. Client super frustrated. Another one this week, notary never responded. We got a hold of the emergency contact. Emergency contact said, oh, she's at her day job. And then the notary the next day said, oh, I was at the hospital. What to believe, right? Long story short, docs, we found out they didn't ship. The signing was on the 9th. Monday, we found out they didn't ship. The docs didn't arrive until Thursday. So yeah, this sum it up is don't ghost, don't fib, be honest. No one's going to scream at you. And if they do, that's unprofessional. Coast to Coast won't scream at you. If you respond to us, we're so grateful and so happy that we're just happy it's going to get done, right? That you didn't ghost. And that's the thing that's like, it seems like the standard now is just don't say anything. Just don't answer, block their number, disappear. Well, you're going to disappear from this industry if you do that. And we don't want you to do that. There's just no need, right? Like we say, everything is fixable. So what's the point? Why would we do that when we can fix almost anything? I'll give you an example. Notary did a signing Sunday. I reviewed the scans and I found out that the docs, they were missing the actual loan docs. There was only escrow docs. So I was like, oh, shoot, I hope he just forgot to scan those. But it was Wednesday and they hadn't been dropped. So I call him, he doesn't answer. I text him, I call him again. He picks up. He says, I'm at FedEx. I'm so sorry. I had this situation. I forgot to tell my wife to ship them. I'm so sorry. I said, hey, did you have those loan docs? Because I don't see the loan docs in the scans. He says, I don't think I got them signed. I said, okay, let me ask my client if they're good. And if they're good, can you go back? Absolutely, I'll do it. Well, he went and got the docs signed, scanned, dropped in FedEx same day. Within 2 hours, he did all of that. And I just was like, oh, you're my favorite. The communication, the way he fixed it, I love him, right? So that's something that like, yeah, bad situation. Maybe initially I was like, oh, I'm frustrated. What's going to happen? At the end of it, I was like, this guy's my hero. I'll give him all my work, right? So just keep that in mind, right? You might think this bad news is the end of me. And it actually ends up being the start of a partnership. Lisa, anything to add on this?
Yeah, we got an email. I was ready to leave last evening and like I think we've said in more than one time, it has been a really tough week. A lot of things that we try real hard to not slip through is a lot of docs not shipping. So right as I was leaving, I get an email from a client that says the notary didn't ship the docs in time. There are so many people upset. The buyers have to pay more interest for the lack of professionalism. There are people's homes and lives that are affected. We cannot pay for this service. So we lost the fee because the notary waited one additional day on seller's documents. Now imagine if you will, you're buying a house. You get to move in on Saturday. Yet the notary didn't ship the docs. So now you have to wait till the following Saturday because you have to work a full-time job. Or imagine how horrible you would feel if it was you that didn't ship them. And then the worst, which is bad enough because I'm sure all of us can understand that. Then the part that gets me in my heart is I'm real disappointed. We can't count on your service 100%. I don't like disappointing clients that we have spent time, growing a partnership. And she's saying she can't count on us because of this, right? And it's not just the lack of work. It's not just that we could lose a client. It's that we want to be second to none. You want to be second to none. Unfortunately, all of you here, okay, bye. Okay, all of you here probably don't do this. So the ones we need to talk to aren't really listening to this today. But, if you have people that are also signing agents, remind them that these are people's financial lives, right? Another thing I wanted to bring up is because of not getting receipts when you drop off, we had to pay $1,850 because a notary didn't get a receipt. The docs went missing, never scanned. And the poor gentleman has now had 22 credit inquiries and had to get LifeLock, that was $600, had to get somebody to watch his credit, that was $1,500. I mean, just ridiculous amount. Had we had a receipt, they would have probably started scanning because we don't know who's on the other side of that counter. So dropping docs off and getting receipts also is something that we should keep in mind as well. I don't mean to go on and on. It's been a really bad week. So there's a lot of stuff up here that's frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. And just another note on, I'm telling you, this was the week of not dropping docs. That's really blows my mind. We always say that errors kind of come in groupings like this. So hopefully this grouping will end already. But we had another one where real nice notary forgot to ship, and he just straight up said, I forgot to ship, but I just scanned them, they're up. I said, okay, good. The thing is the scan was weird. It was too big. I spent about an hour fixing it and organizing it and making sure it was perfect. I sent it to the client and the client said, we're not paying for the signing. And I was like, oh, all that work. Is it worth it to do for the client? Oh, of course, I'll do anything for that client, but it's, discouraging. So
well, and we also don't want to take the fee away from the signing agent who does the job. I mean, you did meet with the borrowers or sellers or buyers, and you did notarize them, and you missed a day, let's say, or 3, as in this week. But the fact is we won't get paid for it, but we don't really take the fee away from a notary unless they ghost us. And then we're done with the whole relationship, because we do know that there's blogs out there that will rip us to shreds. In fact, they do rip us to shreds regardless, but we do it because we know that we all make mistakes. So if someone calls us and says, hey, I forgot to drop docs, for sure, we don't take the fee away. We'll waive the fee on our side, but we'll pay. But anyone who ghosts us, it's a broken relationship at that point.
Yeah. And we've had, and I kind of mentioned it, we've had notaries that will disappear. And then Lisa comes in. When Lisa comes in, it's serious, right? She'll say, hey, anything can be fixed. Let's just talk. And we had one notary who called crying. She said, I think I did a horrible job on this signing. That's why. And I shredded them docs already. And we were just like, oh boy, anything can be fixed. So even if it's your first signing and you're insecure and you're like, maybe I really fudged this up, scan them over. Email us, say, hey, can you review these? Because I'm worried. We'll help you. And anything can be fixed. So you don't really have to be worried. Shredding the documents, then that makes it more difficult to fix. But that's our little rant on that.
Yeah,
so,
we'll probably ranted enough.
Yeah, a little bit of a rant here. So be a favorite notary. And there's 3 principles that will help you do that. Communicate, think big picture, and work hard to develop partnerships. We really need each other. There are some jobs that you're never going to get unless you work with a signing company, right? Maybe it's a client that will only use signing companies for whatever reason. So if you want those jobs, we need each other, right? We need you regardless, right? We need good notaries all the time. And if you want to work with us too, we want, we need a partnership. That's what we want. The notaries that we have partnerships with, it makes all of our lives enjoyable, and we're happy to. When we get signings, that's why there are some clients that we don't make much money on at all. Maybe we lose money on, but we keep them because they keep our notaries busy. And so it's like, I'd rather keep our notaries busy. They're making a little money, and we'll put up with that client that maybe we don't make much money on because of it. And so there is a partnership, and it's important that we develop it. All of these issues can be fixed by communication, right? Communication in all 5 of those points would have fixed the issue. And then Lisa always says, there's big picture, little picture. So don't fight over a little picture thing. Think of the big picture, and that sometimes puts everything into perspective. So you can approach the situation with a little bit more, balance. Lisa, anything to add on those 3 points? No?
So sorry. No, I think that's right. I do have that saying about big picture, little picture, and sometimes people don't get that. We understand what it's like to be out there because we've been signing agents a long time. So we know that it's not like it's an easy job and anyone could do it. We know the challenges that you face walking into, especially with the pandemic right now. As well as all the other things going on in the world. So we want to be someone you guys can count on as well. It's not all about what you can do for us. It is about what we can do for you. And that's what we're trying to do, is just build those relationships up.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
it.
Yeah, that's really it. What we're going to talk about next class, which will be Friday, December the 3rd, is actually a notary suggestion, which was sticky NSA situations and how to successfully navigate. So we're going to put our thinking caps together, think of all of the kind of uncomfortable situations that we can get in and how to work them. So maybe that means scheduling multiple signings in a day, how to handle a rush same-day closing, how to deal with agitated borrower, client, lender, person, really. So that's what's next. So if that sounds good, make sure to stay tuned for next week.